The HOA cop's voice cracked like thunder. "Step out of the truck now." His pistol shook in his hands, pointed straight at my son, Jason. My blood ran cold. A wannabe officer, standing on my land, aiming a loaded weapon at my boy. Jason didn't flinch. His eyes, calm, steady, the kind of eyes forged in war zones. But I knew one wrong twitch from that trembling finger could end everything. This wasn't a citation. This wasn't an argument over fences. This was an armed imposter crossing a line he could never uncross. And what he didn't know: my son wasn't some reckless kid. He was Special Forces. And in the next few seconds, Carl was about to find out. When I first bought this ranch outside Willow Creek, I thought I had finally found peace. 40 acres of cedar, pasture, and sky as far as the eye could see. Out here, the loudest noise was cicadas in summer. Neighbors waved when they passed, not watched. I believed I'd left behind the noise, the control, and the petty rules of city life. This land was mine, debt paid, deed clean, no HOA, no board meetings, no one telling me what color my barn could be. For years, it stayed that way. My son Jason was overseas serving in the military, and I kept the ranch running on my own. Life was simple. Until the new development went up next door. That was when the trouble began. At first, it was laughable. Flyers shoved under my gate, warning me about non-compliant fencing. Letters claiming my barn was an eyesore visible from the road. I ignored them. Their rules didn't apply to me. My land was never part of their HOA, and my deed proved it. But the board, led by Patricia Hall, kept pressing like a wolf testing a fence line. Things got worse when Jason came home. After years of deployments, he wanted quiet. He wanted to help me work the land, fix the fences, breathe again. But the HOA didn't see him as a neighbor. They saw him as a problem. Overnight, they changed the rules. Suddenly, the development was 55 plus only. Jason, barely 30, was now considered a violation. And then came Carl. Carl wasn't a cop. He wasn't even licensed security. But he drove a beat-up Tahoe painted with HOA logos, wore a vest that screamed HOA enforcement, and carried himself like he had federal authority. I caught him photographing Jason's truck, writing bogus citations, even trying to peer into our barn windows. The day I stormed into Patricia Hall's office, I laid a stack of those notices on her desk and told her straight, "My ranch isn't part of your HOA. Call off your attack dog." Her smile didn't waver. "Carl is here to ensure the safety of the community. If your son causes disruption, we have every right to respond." I clenched my jaw. "You don't have jurisdiction over me, and you sure as hell don't have it over him." Patricia leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. "Maybe not legally. But perception is power. And right now, the perception is your son doesn't belong here." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't incompetence. This was a deliberate campaign, one designed to force us off our land. And Carl? He wasn't just a nuisance. He was the weapon Patricia had chosen to wield. And sooner or later, he was going to cross a line. Carl didn't back off. If anything, he got bolder. Jason couldn't drive down the county road without that beat-up Tahoe tailing him like a shadow. Sometimes Carl would block the gate with his truck, forcing Jason to sit there while he wrote fake citations on a clipboard, grinning like he owned the place. Other times, he'd idle at the edge of our drive, camera snapping, muttering about HOA violations. I warned Jason, "Keep your cool, son. He's looking for a reason." Jason would just smile that quiet soldier's smile and shake his head. "Dad, I've dealt with worse than wannabe cops. This guy doesn't scare me." But I wasn't so sure. I'd seen Carl's hands, always twitching near his holster. I'd seen the way his eyes darted, like he was convincing himself he had authority he didn't. That was the kind of man who made mistakes with guns. The harassment escalated. One morning, Jason found his truck door handle scratched, fresh footprints circling the barn. A week later, a pile of hay bales was slashed open, feeds spilling across the dirt. It was subtle at first, easy for Carl to deny if accused, but I knew exactly who was behind it. I went back to Patricia, my patience worn thin. This ends now. Your man is trespassing, vandalizing, and stalking my family. You call him off or the sheriff gets involved. Her smile was the same. Cold. Unmoved. We've had no reports of harassment. If your son feels unsafe, maybe this isn't the right community for him. That was the final straw. Jason stayed calm, but I saw the edge in his eyes, the way he measured Carl's every move like he was back in combat. For weeks, it built like a storm cloud you can see from miles away but can't stop. Then came the day everything boiled over. The morning started like any other. Jason hauled hay in from the pasture, dust streaking his shirt, capped low against the sun. I was at the barn tightening hinges when I heard it, the crunch of gravel, tires grinding slow, deliberate. Carl's Tahoe. He didn't stop at the road this time. He rolled halfway down my drive, cut the engine, and stepped out like he was marching onto a crime scene. His vest gleamed with those big block letters, HOA cop. His hand hovered near his pistol, and his jaw was set like he was about to make the arrest of his life. Jason swung out of his truck, wiping sweat from his brow, and for a heartbeat, it was just another day on the ranch. Until Carl's pistol snapped up, aimed square at my son's chest. Step out of the truck. Now! Carl barked, voice cracking with desperation. My blood ran cold. My boy stood frozen, not in fear, but in calculation. The same soldier calm I'd seen when he came home from deployment, the same steel in his eyes that told me he faced worse. I shouted, Carl! Put the damn gun down. You're trespassing, and that's a felony you're holding. But Carl wasn't listening. His voice shook as he declared, this man is a violation. He's not allowed here. He's a threat to the community. I'm detaining him under HOA authority. My stomach nodded. HOA authority? There was no such thing. Texas law was crystal clear, impersonating a public servant was a felony. And Carl had just crossed the line. Jason raised his hands slowly, deliberately, eyes never leaving Carl's. Calm. Steady. Calculating. And in that silence, with Carl's finger trembling on the trigger, I knew this wasn't harassment anymore. This was war. Carl's hands shook, but his fingers stayed tight on the trigger. One twitch, and this fool could take my son's life right there in our own driveway. Carl, I warned, my voice hard, you're impersonating law enforcement, trespassing, and brandishing a firearm. That's 3 felonies before breakfast. Drop the weapon. His eyes snapped to me, rage twisting his face. Shut your mouth, old man. You've let this punk stay here long enough. I'll fix it myself. Jason didn't move. His hand stayed raised, his breathing even. Only his eyes shifted, locked onto Carl's trembling grip. That was the difference between my son and a wannabe cop. Jason wasn't panicking. He was calculating. Carl sneered, spit flying. You think I'm scared of you? Rules are rules, and reckless kids don't belong here. This is a 55-plus community, and I'll enforce it myself if I have to. Jason tilted his head, just slightly. That half-smile I knew too well spread across his face. Buddy, I've had real guns pointed at me by people who knew how to use them. You're shaking. The words landed like a hammer. Carl's jaw clenched, his face flushing red. But the tremor in his hands grew worse, his pistol bobbing like it weighed 100 pounds. His safety discipline was non-existent. His finger rode the trigger, knuckle whitening. I took a step forward, heart pounding, phone already in my hand. Carl, listen to me. You fire that weapon, and you'll spend the rest of your life behind bars. You've got seconds to make a choice. For a moment, I thought he'd snap. His breathing grew ragged, teeth bared, like a man cornered by his own pride. He shifted his weight, shoulders tensing, dangerous, reckless. Jason's voice cut through the tension like steel. Calm. Controlled. You don't want to do this. The silence was suffocating. The cicadas had gone quiet. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then it happened. Carl twitched. Whether it was anger, nerves, or stupidity, I'll never know. But in that instant, Jason moved. Jason exploded into motion. 1 second his hands were raised, the next he'd slipped sideways, faster than my eyes could track. His arm snapped up, knocking Carl's pistol wide before that trembling finger could twitch. Carl stumbled, stunned, as Jason wrenched the weapon from his grip with a smooth, practiced twist. In less than a heartbeat, the gun that had threatened my son now rested cold in Jason's steady hands. Carl staggered back, clutching his wrist, his face pale as chalk. You! What the hell are you? Jason leveled his gaze, calm and cold. His voice was low, even, but it carried the weight of a hammer. Special Forces. You just pulled a gun on the wrong man. The bravado drained from Carl's eyes. The vest he'd been so proud to wear, HOA cop stitched in bold white, suddenly looked like a Halloween costume. The swagger that carried him onto our land crumbled. He looked small. Exposed. Jason kept the pistol pointed low, finger nowhere near the trigger. Controlled. Professional. The exact opposite of the trembling man he'd just disarmed. I pulled out my phone, recording every second. My voice shook with fury. Carl, you're done. You just committed criminal trespass, impersonated an officer, and aimed a loaded weapon at my son. That's aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. You're looking at prison time. Carl's face twisted, torn between rage and fear. He puffed his chest like he wanted to reclaim authority, but his voice betrayed him. You think you're safe? This isn't over. I've got authority. The board's behind me. Jason stepped forward, his presence like a blade. Authority? You're a clown with a toy vest. The sheriff's going to drag you out in cuffs. Leave. Now. Carl's bravado shattered. He stumbled backward, muttering, "This isn't over." Gravel spat under his boots as he scrambled into his Tahoe. The tires screamed, spitting dust and rock as he tore down the road, his fake badge glinting one last time before vanishing in the haze. Jason ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and handed me the pistol. His eyes met mine, calm, steady, but edged with warning. Dad, that guy's dangerous. He's not going to stop. I nodded, my chest tight. Then it's time the sheriff knows everything. No more warnings. No more benefit of the doubt. This war ends now. And with Carl's pistol still warm in my hand, I knew we finally had the evidence to bury the HOA's little empire once and for all. The silence after Carl's Tahoe vanished down the road didn't last long. By dusk, the sheriff's deputies were at my gate. Jason handed over the disarmed pistol and his dashcam footage. I gave them my phone recording. Deputy Waters, a steady man with sharp eyes, studied the evidence like a surgeon examining a wound. If he's been drawing a weapon unlawfully, impersonating law enforcement, and trespassing on private land, that's a big problem, he said. We'll catalog all of this. Jason stood off to the side, calm as ever, but I could see the soldier in him, alert, measuring every word, every move. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Within 48 hours, deputies interviewed half a dozen neighbors. One produced a photo of Carl in that fake vest months earlier. Another handed over a printout of an incident log Carl kept in his truck, dates, license plates, notes about anyone under 30 entering the neighborhood. Then came the search warrant. When deputies opened Carl's Tahoe, they found everything: a knockoff badge, a stack of HOA violation forms with forged signatures, and a burner phone full of surveillance photos. But the real bombshell was the text messages. Patricia Hall and other board members had been feeding Carl orders. Make him uncomfortable. Pressure will make him sell. Handle it quietly. The paper trail was undeniable. Carl wasn't acting alone, he was their weapon. The prosecutor didn't waste time. Carl was charged with impersonating a public servant, unlawful carrying and brandishing of a firearm, criminal trespass, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Felony charges. The kind that can bury a man. But Patricia and the board weren't spared. Those messages tied them to conspiracy and organized harassment. Civil attorneys jumped in, filing lawsuits for intimidation, emotional distress, and abuse of authority. Once neighbors realized the HOA's empire was crumbling, they came forward with their own stories, illegal notices, property vandalism, threatening voicemails. One family even had a recording of Patricia warning that their teenage son would be targeted if they didn't cooperate. The walls closed fast. Carl eventually pled guilty to impersonation and unlawful brandishing. He got probation, restitution, and a record that would follow him forever. Patricia and 2 other board members were indicted. Some cut deals, others went to trial. The county froze the HOA's accounts, revoked its enforcement privileges, and placed it under receivership pending a full audit. In civil court, the plaintiffs, myself included, won a massive settlement. Hundreds of thousands in damages, attorney fees, and penalties meant to make sure no HOA ever tried something like this again in Willow Creek. Standing on my porch after it was over, Jason beside me, I didn't feel triumph so much as reset. The storm had passed. The men and women who tried to weaponize fear had lost everything they built on lies. They thought intimidation was power. They learned the hard way that accountability is expensive. And as for Carl, the self-proclaimed HOA cop, he'll be remembered not as a hero, not as a protector, but as the fool who pointed a gun at the wrong man. And that, folks, is how one arrogant HOA cop and his entire board went down in flames. They thought intimidation and fake authority would scare people into silence, but when you point a gun at the wrong man, the truth always catches up. Jason didn't just protect himself that day, he protected our entire neighborhood from years of abuse. Carl's felony charges, Patricia's downfall, and the HOA's collapse prove one thing: bullies crumble when someone finally stands tall. So, what do you think? Did Carl get off easy with probation, or should he have faced real prison time? And do you believe HOAs should even have this much power in the first place? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read every single one. Don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed the story, share it with someone who needs a reminder that justice always finds its way, and of course, subscribe for more true stories where karma strikes back harder than anyone expects. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and never let fear wear a badge it didn't earn.